the next week, they appeared in so many living rooms, it was hard to think of them as dangerous.
I'm Lloyd Robertson, and this is CBC Weekend.
John Lennon is here in Canada selling peace. He is here in our studio tonight, along with Yoko and Rabbi Abraham Feinberg from Holy Blossom Temple. And John, just before we get on with our discussion here, I want you to meet a man who is waiting to talk to you in our Winnipeg studio by the name of Russell Dorn. He's the Deputy Speaker of the Manitoba Legislature, and he's representing the Manitoba government on the Centennial Committee out there. Manitoba's entry into Confederation was 1970, and I think they would like to involve you in their celebration. So, Mr. Dorn, if you're ready.
Yes, Lloyd. I'm speaking to you from Winnipeg, where the Premier of Manitoba, who is Canada's youngest Premier, has sent a letter to John Lennon, which was mailed yesterday, and I would like to read that letter to Mr. Lennon. Dear Sir, through news media accounts of your statements and actions with respect to promoting world peace, I believe I have gained some understanding of your philosophy and find myself substantially in accord with it. Therefore, it would give me and the government of Manitoba considerable pleasure if you would consider Manitoba as a site in 1970 to promote world peace. We would, of course, be prepared to provide you with every assistance in selecting an appropriate site. Yours sincerely, Edward R. Schreier.
How about that, John?
That's beautiful, and we'd like to thank you very much. And I can't give a date or anything now, but we'll be there, definitely. And it's just, we're overwhelmed by that offer, and we just don't know what to say. It's just too much, you know.
Mr. Dorn, here's a chance for a little plug to the other people of Canada as well. You know, John was telling me that he's never been to Winnipeg, so perhaps you could tell him what the beauties of Winnipeg will be in 1970.
And happy birthday for you, whatever it was he said before.
Well, thank you very much. I might just mention in brief that we're in the center of Canada. We have a very progressive province and a large city. Our capital is 500,000. We have also in our province the International Peace Gardens, which is shared between North Dakota and Manitoba. And we're very proud of the fact that next year we'll be celebrating this 100th anniversary, being the first province to join Confederation. I hope that things will work out from your end and from ours, and that we're going to try to keep you to your word right now, John.
Oh yes, you don't have to worry about that. It's just a matter of I have people around me, like anybody does, who make sure that it happens and do the phone calls, and we'll be in touch as soon as the lights go out. You know, I mean, like tomorrow, whenever we get the letter, you know, we'll wait for the letter with the address, etc.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dorn. Thank you.
Thank you from both of us.
John, you've been terribly flattering to Canada since you've been around this week, and I'm
Vice
just
versa.
wondering how you can define that strain that seems to run through our national character. We say we have an inferiority complex in this country. What is it about Canada? Why is this peace movement being held here?
You know, it's like beyond me, the ins and outs of it, why we're here doing these things in Canada. I can say things like, I know Canada wants to talk to China and all those things, but they're not exactly the point. It's something else that I can't define it.
Well,
but we came, it's like it's meant to be. We can only say it's like it's meant to be. But we came to Montreal first time for the bed-in by mistake. You know, I mean, I don't want to be insulting, but it happened by mistake. We ended up in Montreal.
How by mistake? You mean you just...
Well, originally we were planning to go to one place, and then we ended up in the Bahamas, and then from the Bahamas we headed to Toronto and ended up in Canada. And our plan, we didn't have a plan. We ended up in Montreal doing a bed-in.
By chance.
By chance. And then we met a lot of nice people, you know. And of course we meet millions of people. Canada is the first country that we've been given help with our movement. Most people that approach us want something. Canada is the first place that has given us something. For instance, the media and the press treat us as human beings,
Yes.
which is, I'm astonished.
They're very
I'm not used to it.
We're very thankful.
Well, we have always been, or at least we've considered ourselves to be a peace-loving nation and mediators to some extent. I would like to know why you wouldn't choose a place where war is going on right now, or where there is a dispute in progress. Vietnam, the Middle East?
A, because Canada chose us as much as we chose Canada. B, we had an offer to go to Biafra. This was last year sometime, and Yoko was pregnant then. We considered the offer. We then declined because of her pregnancy. And during that time, we had time to think. And what the Biafrans wanted from us was publicity. That's what they wanted, even though they would have liked us to go in there to give them publicity. Now we thought, because we're frightened for a kick-off of going where British bombs are dropping. They just recently dropped one on one of your Can-Air relief things. That was a British bomb, folks. I'm frightened. I got more frightened when I went into it. And then we had to consider the pros and cons of risking. I know it's a risk going across the road, but risking going through an area like that, Biafra, Israel, or Hanoi, whatever it is, how much can we do alive or dead? I don't want to be Mr. and Mrs. Dead Saint of 1970.
Well, surely this message, war is over if you want it, that quite simple message of yours, is really aimed at the people south of the border.
Yes, because we have a choice. There are basically maybe two problems. We have a cancer. Now, you can cure the cancer when people have got it in Biafra and Vietnam, or you can try and prevent cancer.
Quite right.
So let's say we plump for research, and we're hoping, and seeing that 14-year-old boys play was just beautiful. That gives us more hope than ever just to see something like that.
Can you get back into the States shortly?
I'm hoping, I'm full of hope, as you can see. I think the States will let me in shortly. I just hope, it's like that all the time. It's like ping pong,
Rabbi Feinberg.
It's their loss if he doesn't go in.
Yes, Rabbi Feinberg, there were some comments made yesterday from people in this country about this being a naive project, and some Canadians say it's a waste of time. What's your feeling about that?
Quite the contrary. I think this project of the Pop Peace Festival is very realistic because it's intended to leap over the politicians and reach the people.
Well, now, you've been
And
to
what
Hanoi.
people?
You know how
The young
difficult that
people.
Vietnam situation is.
Of course it's difficult. But it wouldn't be so difficult. The war in Vietnam would be over if the American people, the silent majority, which I consider to be for peace, not for war, really and definitely and clearly made its will known. And the purpose of this festival is, as I say, to reach the people. And what people? Primarily the young. They are, above all, the silent majority because they don't have a vote. And I think that it's the plan to give them a vote, to let them make their decision for war or peace. And besides, this festival will give new zest and enthusiasm and hope to the peace movement. I've already heard from leaders of the movement in the United States and Canada how happy they are that John and Yoko have undertaken to be the spearhead. They don't like to be referred to as leaders, but they are leaders because of what they are. And there's no couple in the world behind whom the young people will organize themselves more enthusiastically than behind John and Yoko, not only because of their fame and their acclaim and their prestige and their influence, but because of their personal qualities of character, which I have learned to love. I am proud to be associated with them in this cause.
John, you said something very interesting in the last few days. You said that we are now coming into, indeed we are into the post-drug culture.
Yes.
You're talking to the young people.
Yes.
Are you saying that drugs are passé?
Yeah, people that take drugs, when I talk about drugs, I mean hard stuff like speed and the things that the kids are getting into now. It means they've got no hope. The only time I ever took drugs was when I had no hope. And when you're on drugs, it's harder to find hope. It's like the alcoholics. We've seen all the films about our parents. They were all alcoholics, and when you are alcoholic, you don't know. You can't face up to it, and you're too far gone before you find out you're really hooked. And speed does kill. All those things kill. And you've got to have hope. And if we can give people hope, then they won't need drugs.
Russell Dorn in Winnipeg would like to say something to you again, John, if we could just listen to him.
I think you're going to make a terrific impact with your campaign, but I was wondering what sort of a follow-through after you and your wife leave. What do you intend to do in terms of any organization or follow-up to keep what you have going continuing?
You mean the follow-through to this particular day?
Yes.
Well, we came over initially to set up this festival for July, and of course we'll leave behind this nucleus of people to keep the events going. Now, if we can get this festival to make some money, we'll leave it here, and the people we appoint will circulate the money and use it to keep the thing going, because we can't obviously hop around, be everywhere at once.
Are you
But we
saying
can
that
have
people-
representative in each country that we leave behind. And we'll continue touring and touring and touring. But there are many other people of equal strength as John and Yoko who are just waiting for different opportunities, as we were waiting for the opportunity ourselves, unknowingly or whatever.
This is really
to
the
do
commercialization of peace, then.
Yes, when somebody
selling
says
peace.
we're naive. Now, I ask you, was Mr. Ford or any of them naive when they first started plugging the product?
Thank
They
you
first
very
of all
much,
had-
John
okay,
and
I had the
Yoko and
music.
Rabbi Feinberg.
Too, so I was
Oh,
cool.
yeah.
When I saw the album, you know, I saw,
Yeah.
because I used to work in a little film studio there for American educational TV, and so when I saw that picture, boom, you know, it's really funny.
Yeah, there must be a few people that know Abbey Road itself.
And it just sort of coming across it in a record shop and seeing it was sort of, what? What's that? That kind of thing. So it's a nice album, I like it.
Thank you.
Sure, it seemed, you know,
Yeah.
fairly clearly.
It is straight lyric, you know.
Have you got your two established? I'm sorry, hold it. Hold it just one second. I've been so busy talking about music that I forgot one element. Seen artists get so involved with a political or a philosophical belief or message that it overwhelms their art. Are you afraid of that at all?
No,
Well-
we just keep on dispensing our ideas, you know, just move on. So it doesn't bother.
We're not staying in any bag like music or film art. You know, art is communication, or I forgot what some guy was saying up there. But we are art, you're art, this is art,
Art
this
is
is
art.
art now. The people at home are art. And it can't interfere with peace. You know, there's no limits. Art isn't something that has a corner. It isn't in a box.
What kind of response are you getting? I mean, one thing I'm curious about is whether you're getting a different response in America than you get in Europe, for instance.
Well, we get a different response in each country. You know, it's sort of, each country has its prototype. You know, like the Englishman and the Frenchman, and etc.
Tell me about the American. What's the prototype?
Well, the American, the prototype, there's two prototypes. The one that's in Europe with the cameras, and the one that's in America, which is living in luxury, you know. But the country usually reacts initially in prototype. You know, the English still reacting prototype English. The French are. Canadians, I don't know their prototype. As Marshall McLuhan said, that the Canadians didn't have that problem because there was never a prototype in a way. So the response in Canada, just from the media, they give us a chance, you know. They don't make fun of us for the sake of making fun, you know. Criticism is valid, but in England they just sort of refuse to hear anything we say, even if it's one word piece, because it comes from an entertainer and his wife, or an avant-garde artist and their freaky pop star husband.
It's a tremendous
So,
fear in the air.
How about in America? What
In the
response do you
States,
get there?
we can't judge till we get there. The response varies, like from New York to LA, you know. It seems like we'd be welcome in New York, whereas we mightn't be welcome in the South or something like that. You know, it varies. I mean, the States isn't a prototype. It's a multiracial, massive place, as we know. And I wouldn't know till I got there.
Are you trying at all to tie in your campaign for peace with the Christmas period?
Yes, we specifically did the poster event around the world for Christmas to try and get at least one plug-in for peace on earth at Christmas, because that's what it's about. And happy birthday, Christ, you know, is what it's about.
If you had one wish for Christmas time, what would it be?
Peace
Peace on earth. Yeah.
and love.
Okay, let's cut for a second. What do we say?
Then that poster is irrelevant. When we have peace on earth, that poster won't exist only as history.
In other words, the poster showing a starving child would be irrelevant if you had...
If we had peace, you asked us what we wanted, peace on earth. That implies no violence, no starving children, no violent minds, no violent households, no violence, no frustration, no fear.
It seems like a massive kind of desire. I mean, I'm not, you know...
But we all have it. We all want it somewhere along the line, you know. And
this is the age of communication, and it's so rapidly expanding now, you know, that you can see that 10 years now is like 2,000 years. That's it. So it's not that difficult. It will happen in a year or two.
In other words, you feel that with the ease of communication now, you might be able to really
achieve it quicker.
If the Beatles made it, in quotes, overnight, which we didn't, but the next people that make it will really make it overnight. You know. This is the only country where people have come and offered us to help us so far. Every other offer we have is for us to help them. And you don't know what it's like the other way around. When somebody offers us help, it's just,
it's very beautiful.
We get...
In the middle of the Revolution number 9, it says something about if you want a contribution. Do you get a lot of requests that way for help the revolution?
We get lots of requests, various requests. The begging letters are the most constant,
90%.
and they vary depending on what we're doing at the moment. If we're having a miscarriage, we get many people who have had miscarriages too, and just £100 for a new car will save us. And if we got married, there's many people that are saying, we were married too, but my wife died and my leg fell off and my head went black, and you know, so it's usually that kind of hype, you know. But we select the things we want to help, you know.
Yeah. What do you mean by peace?
Just all its aspects: peace of mind, peace in the street, peace in your own home, peace throughout the world. Really means no violence, or violence that's channeled and doesn't hurt. That's what I mean by peace. I think I can't define things, you know. Yeah. I'm not peace from that mind, school of thought. I'm not educated to talk like that. I talk in jingles. Yeah. You know, I'm in monosyllables. I can't even say that, you know. And so peace means that to me. Don't hurt people.
You gave your OBE?
MBE.
MBE?
Oh, we're talking about OBE's one better.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
Yes. we got the weediest one. You know.
Well, usually you start from...
I gave it back, you know, because it always embarrassed me. I was a bit of a hypocrite to take it, but I was on the make. And I'd been thinking of giving it back for a long time. I'd discussed it and thought about it and put it off like you do about anything, like getting, I don't know, I was going to say a haircut, but something like that, you know, like getting your teeth fixed. You know. I was always going to do it, you know, whenever I remembered it or saw somebody put it on a letter, I used to flinch, you know, because I'm basically a socialist. And so I was always thinking I'll have some event like the bed-in, and then I'll announce, and I'm going to get the MBE back.
So you gave it back to a socialist government?
Yeah, well, they gave us it. But the thing was, it was an event in itself, you know, and it was just a gimmick to just wave the flag and say, remember Biafra, because Britain is more responsible, although we think everybody's responsible for all the things. Britain must be aware of its responsibilities in Biafra, and for our government policy towards the US, Vietnam thing.
The war departments after World War II became the defense departments. There's no reason they couldn't become the peace departments.
Well, if peace really lost its meaning, we'd invent a word, you know.